Here we have our 44 Texas Rye Whiskey. So it's a whiskey distilled from 100% rye mash. So that really lets the flavor of that rye shine through. So that makes it different than most other ryes. Most ryes are about 70% rye on average. By law, it has to be at least 51%. Ours is 100% rye, and that really lets that flavor of the rye shine through. So that mint, that spice, that breadiness of the rye. The other thing that we do differently is we age it in our used 36 Texas bourbon barrels. Now most ryes are aged in brand new barrels, so to us they pick up a little bit more character like bourbon, so a little bit more of that sweetness. But again, rye is the star of the show here, so we really wanted to make this more of a spirit forward whiskey versus bourbon, which is more of a barrel forward whiskey. So let's go ahead and try this Texas Rye Whiskey. So we recommend a 4-step evaluation, the first being appearance. So you've got the whiskey in the glass, let's go ahead and hold it up to the light and give it a look. Now, this rye whiskey ages in our used 36 Texas bourbon barrel. That's going to give it a much lighter appearance to it. So compare that to a bourbon where you've got that kind of deeper reddish hue to it. This is going to be much lighter in appearance. You can go ahead and swirl it around the glass. You're going to see those streaks come down the side. So again, you can tell the proof of a whiskey by the width of those legs, but we're not going to get into that here. The second step of the evaluation is the aroma. So again, to get the aroma without getting the burn, we want to put it under the nose and inhale through the mouth. So let's try that now and see what you guys might be smelling. So think about 3 different buckets of flavors we get with this. First, we're going to talk about a sweet. So you might pick up little hints of vanilla. Again, it's coming from a used bourbon barrel within there. Second is going to be spice. So this is a rye whiskey, so definitely you should pick up a little bit of cinnamon spice that comes out of it. You also might pick up a little bit of mint, which is a little bit more herbaceous, or you might pick up a little bit of the grain that's coming through within that. So that's the aroma. Hopefully you guys got some of that. You might pick up little hints of oak within this, but then again, because it's a used barrel, the oak is usually not as present as it is in a bourbon barrel. So we're going to go on to step 3. So this is going to be taste. Now we want to take at least 2 sips of this, and that's because when we're drinking whiskey, we got to acclimate our taste buds to the whiskey itself. So let's take that first sip, go ahead and acclimate our taste buds and see what you guys might be tasting. So think about how the whiskey's moving from the front to the back end of the palate. Also think about the aromas. Some of the things you just smelled within the whiskey, are you detecting those? Are you getting some of the sweetness? Or is it more towards the spicy realm? Or are you getting a little bit more of the oak? There's no wrong answers here. Everybody's palate's different, but search for some of those flavors that we talked about within there. Again, you might pick up some of the mint that we talked about in the aroma. So the 4th step we're gonna do is the finish. So again, our mouth's kind of acclimated to, not kind of acclimated to the whiskey. The 4th step we're going to do is the finish. Now our mouth is already acclimated to this whiskey, so I want you to search for any differences in this. So does it mature for you? Does it evolve? Do you get different flavors that came from the 2nd sip versus the 1st sip? So if you haven't done so already, let's go ahead and take that 2nd sip and we'll see what you guys are tasting. So immediately you should notice that it seems much smoother. And then again, that's because the alcohol isn't as prevalent on the palate as it was on the first one. You may be picking up a little bit more of that mint or spice on this one. You may not be getting oak, you may not be getting sweetness, but all those characters go together to create the whiskey that you want. So we again recommend whiskey when you try it neat first, and then add a little bit of water to it. So if you got a dropper, you can add a couple drops of water to it. If you don't have that, if you have a straw, you can add a couple drops that way. You can use whiskey stones. This will cool the whiskey down without actually diluting it. If you do want to mix it, this rye whiskey makes a great Manhattan. It can also make a very good old fashioned. But for this 94 proof whiskey, this is our 44 Texas Rye.